Welcome into another edition of the Gig'em 24/7 Sports Podcast. A bit of an impromptu podcast edition. This one on a Thursday morning.
Yeah,
Uh,
we weren't planning this, were we, Andrew?
Boy, do we have a lot to talk about. Kind of like Jimbo Fisher's impromptu press conference this morning. We decided this. After that, we're gonna dive into everything that he said because boy, oh boy, is there been a lot happening over College Station. You know, Brian and I were just talking about this before we went on. Boy, it seems like May is a great month when Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban kind of trade words at their respective events they're at. But I don't think they're going to be playing golf anytime soon. I think it's safe to say that after this morning.
Oh, for sure. I mean, okay, so last night,
Yeah,
Nick Saban sort of unprompted,
yeah,
just A&M paid every player, not just in the recruiting class, on the roster. I made a joke yesterday on Twitter. Yesterday, the NCAA said that for the next 2 years, there's not going to be a cap on how many
yep,
players a team could take. I made a joke that Nick Saban made that rule because he was mad about A&M getting the number one class, and he wanted it back. And basically, he's going to sign 45 guys this year to get it back. Just a complete joke about Saban, being mad about not getting the number one class and
yeah.
seeing the record fall. And then that night, he comes out and just attacks A&M's number one class again. So, maybe he was behind that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe the joke landed and he was behind that new rule, but clearly he's still harboring some resentment.
Yeah, so to catch people up to speed who may not have seen this, because honestly, I was kind of watching the NBA playoffs last night and kind of tuning into the NHL playoffs, and then saw this quote kind of come across. And to catch those up to speed who hadn't seen it yet, Nick Saban was at an event last night and said, "I know the consequence is going to be difficult for the people who are spending tons of money to get players. You read about it, you know who they are. We were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team, made a deal for their name and image and likeness. We didn't buy one player, all right? But I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it. It's tough." So that was last night. And then we kind of get word, a little after 9 o'clock that Jimbo Fisher is going to be having a press conference at 10 a.m. Central. And I had some people on the network ask me if they thought that presser would be streamed. I A&M, if there's one thing that they are really good at, they have those clips ready to go right after Jimbo Fisher said it. It was the same with kind of the LSU coaching rumors last year and of the signing day last year. They have the quotes ready to go. So he comes right out and calls Nick Saban a narcissist, says the narcissist in him doesn't allow these things to happen. It's ridiculous when he's not on top. So that was one of his quotes. And went on to say, some people think they're God. Go dig into how God did his deals. You may find out about a guy, a lot of things you didn't want to know. We build him up to be the czar of football. Go dig into his past or anybody that's ever coached with him. You'll find out anything you want to know on what he does and how he does it. And it's despicable. I mean, there's numerous other things that he said over the course of the 10 minutes, but just how aggressively he came out was kind of what I expected him to do. But it just showed you, October 8th is going to be really interesting when these two teams meet. It was going to be interesting before the College Game Day. I know you're in the midst of making plans right now. You've got one place you need to be on October 8th.
A&M could be 0-6 or whatever, however many games they have before that. Alabama could be the same, and I think you still need to be there. Like, there is no excuse for game day not to already have their hotels in Tuscaloosa booked.
Yeah, because last year, I mean, they didn't end up going because A&M was obviously on their slide. They have a chance to redo it now. SEC Nation was there last year for their edition. They have the rare opportunity for a redo of off-season comments once again. Kind of making this the big time matchup of that week. I mean, they have their chance for a redo, and there's no way that I don't think College Game Day is there on October 8th. But just
No,
everything
no.
that's been
So
going on the last 6 months.
So last year, Jimbo Fisher said at a coach's night, sort of off the cuff, "Yeah, we're going to beat their ass." we're going to beat their asses, which they did end up doing. But he
Yep.
said that was one sentence, and it got so much coverage. Jimbo comes out today, calls Nick Saban a narcissist, says I will not answer his call. We're done when asked about their relationship. You coach with people like Bobby Bowden and learn how to do things. You coach with other people and learn how not to do things. I mean,
Yeah.
it's when you walk on water, I guess it don't matter talking about Saban. I've got nothing to hide. Our program has nothing to hide. It'd be interesting if everybody could say that. I mean, this is like, if Saban hadn't started this is bulletin board material for
Yeah.
years, for decades. Like Jimbo. So we've seen Jimbo fiery before.
Yeah.
He came out on signing day when there were some message board rumors that started that A&M was paying players. He came out very defensive. I don't think we've ever seen him on the offensive like this. And I did not know what to expect. I knew he would come out fiery whenever we got the email this morning about there being a press conference.
Yeah.
Him coming out and just, I think it was his first sentence, just the narcissist in him doesn't allow those things to happen.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous when he's not on top, when saying, pointing out how A&M beat Alabama in recruiting and took their record. That was the first thing, and that was just the intro. I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of people talking about how it's like WWE, and you
Yeah.
know what? It sort of is,
It
but
is.
you could just tell. I mean, Fisher took this personally,
Yeah.
very, very personally. Last night, he's not on social media, so last night he said, Mark Roberts texted him. But I imagine his phone was probably just blowing up. Like, hey, can
Yeah.
you look what this guy? Same with Deion Sanders, because Jimbo also went after Deion Sanders, talking about how they paid Travis Hunter $1 million and
Yeah.
everything. But so Deion responded quickly last night. I think had a press conference today, or had some
Yeah.
comments today as well. So, Saban didn't have a lot of fans across college football, and I think a lot of other coaches may not come out and say it, but
Yeah.
may have actually liked seeing what Jimbo did, because there's almost, let's say all of this is true. There's a lot of
Yeah.
allegations. Let's say everything was true. In college football, it's like a don't, what happens behind the
It's the
scenes, you don't
code.
take
Yeah.
public. It stays behind the curtain.
Yeah.
You deal with it then. You deal with fallout then. Maybe you rat to the NCAA, whatever. You don't do what Nick Saban did. So I think a lot of other coaches may actually just be praising Jimbo right now, because he was able to. I mean, he basically took Nick Saban's whole career and just dumped on it. Like, that was nuts.
Yeah, and you mentioned the part about the mentor. He didn't want to talk about mentor anymore or anything like that. That's when he went into the part about not wanting to work with him anymore, and was kind of brought up the fact that they're going to see each other in a couple of weeks at SEC meetings, and they're obviously going to see each other at SEC. SEC media days are coming up. And he said, "I don't mind. It's not awkward to me. I don't mind confrontation." I think it's been. It's kind of been building for a little while, because there's been, comments, from Lane Kiffin has had things to say, and Nick Saban's had some side. I think this is
I
kind of
think even Lane Kiffin this morning told The Athletic, he's like, I cannot believe what I just watched.
yeah, he was
Lane
even
Kiffin, who is not afraid to say anything,
yeah.
was in awe, or in shock over what he just saw, just like we all were.
For once,
Sorry,
Lane Kiffin was kind of one upped in terms of like press conference quotes, and that doesn't happen very often during the offseason. He's usually got his fair share of quotes, but I think this has kind of been building for a while, and I think the one thing that kind of gets to Jimbo Fisher and really makes him angry is when it's the insinuation that NIL is the only reason they signed this class, because then it's kind of disrespecting everything that his coaches are doing on the road and the players that are making the decision. I think that's when he got really fired up, and that's why you've seen a lot of reactions. I'll have a reaction gallery coming up later today on from a bunch of signees and current players, former players. That's the part I think that where he feels like he needs to come out and defend those guys. That's when it gets really angry. And one thing that never gets brought up, and I know you and I have talked about this before, a lot of those kids are from like the Houston area, and which is obviously a big recruiting ground for A&M. And so, there's certain things that I think really get to Jimbo Fisher, but when the insinuation that they bought the entire class comes up, that's what really gets him angry.
Oh, no, for sure. I mean, that's, yeah. I mean, this staff has proven they can recruit. The first year they were on campus, I mean, it was the very first time there was ever an early signing day, and Fisher arrived just like a week or two before that. So A&M signed, I think, only 8 guys early. Even the kids that were committed didn't sign. So they went out and they landed, I think, 8 or 9 guys on the February signing day that year, including they flipped a pair of Alabama commits that day, and Bobby Brown, who ended up now is in the NFL draft pick, and also Vernon Jackson, who unfortunately had a career-ending injury, but flipped both of those guys from Alabama on signing day, and landed some other guys. They lost Jalen Waddle to Alabama, so it was a bit of a battle there. But it's been going back since then. I mean, this isn't something new that A&M is going in and beating Alabama for recruits. I mean, ever since Fisher's been there, since he's had a full class, A&M has been in the top 5 or 6, and he's said all along his goal was 1 or 2. He recruited at Florida State well. So, yeah, it's just weird to see, all of a sudden it's just like, oh, A&M's cheating. They've been doing this. They've been landing these classes before NIL, before any of this, and yes, it wasn't it sort of was just the perfect storm last year of the ties they had. Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy's parents had been moving to College Station for to work with the ministry for a while. Just all these pieces sort of came together. Lebius Overton's dad was the former associate AD at Texas A&M for 11 years. There are reasons that these kids had ties to Aggie land, so it's not just completely out of the blue that A&M's landing these kids. And yeah, but Saban's acting like this is just oh, these are guys who wouldn't have even looked at that that program in College Station that nobody even knows about. Like, I could see why Jimbo not just took it personally about he calling his character into question, but also that he said Jimbo came to A&M for a reason. And he said, why would other people not want to do it? It's implying that there's nothing of value in College Station other than money, if what Nick Saban is saying is true.
And it's looking past the point that they literally beat Alabama in front of a huge group of recruits that were all there to see that, and that had a huge impact on the rest of the class. And you mentioned things falling into place. I mean, Lincoln Riley going to USC opened the door for Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy and for A&M to get back in it, and things like, and Texas having a bad year, LSU going through problems, Miami and Florida State all having their issues as well. There was a ton of things that all kind of played together into what happened with that 2022 class. And so I think that's what really bothers Jimbo Fisher. But you're right. I mean, it was really personal. I'm fascinated to see, because I don't think this is near the end of this. This is obviously going to keep going for the next couple of months. I'm fascinated to
see media days is going to be crazy. I believe Jimbo Fisher has the very last spot. We need to look it up and see when Nick Saban's
I think they're on different days, but
not the same day, but it's, so Saban, I bet Saban's probably pretty guarded after this, I mean, he's going to have to address it, but probably won't. But you know what? If Jimbo is still as mad then as he was,
he probably today, will be, I mean, I just love the quote too of, well, do you think media days are going to be, awkward at all, or the SEC meetings? And he said, no, not at all. I'm not afraid of confrontation. So it's just going to be fascinating. I don't think Jimbo is going to back down from this at all. And
no, who I
fired up.
You know who I don't envy right now is I never do, but whoever has to transcribe his press conference for the SEC. Jimbo already talks so quickly. I mean, it's impossible to transcribe it. So now a mad Jimbo who's talking so quickly and also just ranting at Saban and at all the other haters, for lack of a better term. I mean, that transcription person is going to be just crazy busy, and I mean, they get it out quickly, so good for them.
I know we're there's been a lot of proposals made and ideas and all that. We still got time to change the SEC Media Day schedule. I think it'd be awesome to have for 10 minutes or so, have Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban on the stage together, kind of, how they do it for national championship games and things like that. Put them on either side and let the questions keep coming. And
maybe like the UFC or boxing weigh-ins where they, get in each other's faces. So. Boy, but you had pointed out you're looking at social media and you're seeing the reactions of these recruits and signees and players. Okay, So Jimbo Fisher, if nothing else, he just showed, and he's shown this before, he's going to have your back. If let's just say this was all, let's go back to WWE terms. Let's say this was all a performance and he's not even really that mad.
Yeah.
It's a performance that showed players, I've got your back. I'm not going to let people mess with you. And most fan bases have been hating on A&M since they've gotten the #1 title. I imagine probably Florida State fans are laughing right now at A&M and taking Saban's side. Auburn fans are probably on A&M side. I don't, if there are going to be many other fans on A&M side, just because you naturally, emotion takes over and you take sides. But let's say nobody except Aggies are on Jimbo Fisher's side. That just won him a ton of points with recruits. I've seen recruits comment. I've seen Texas high school coaches comment saying, good job and all these things. And so Jimbo, I think he had to come out today. He couldn't wait until tomorrow at that coaches night like we were expecting. He had to come out today, and he had to come out swinging. Now, again, he got really personal, and he probably isn't going to get a Christmas card from Nick Saban this year, but he did what he had to do.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to a point. One of the things we've heard, and Ross Bjork has talked about this on the town halls as well about, this going back to the Buzz Williams thing about, getting left out of the tournament and his lengthy statement that he had on the first night of the NIT tournament. And he said, all we care about are the players that are in our building, the fans that follow us, and our coaching staff. And he said, and what happens in College Station, and that's all we care about. And so this message, what I think, was as much for the players that are in the building, the players that are coming. And, to your point, Ish Harris has responded. Bryce Anderson, Cam Dewberry, Damani Richardson said he can't wait for the season to get here. Evan Stewart had several tweets. Jaden Scarlett, Shamar Stewart, Walter Nolan's dad. Even Henry Coleman on the basketball side was even tuned. I mean, this really got DeMarvin Leal. I mean, this was as much, to your point, I'm going to defend my players and I'm going to have their back. And he said as much during the press conference as well. He was asked about what you say to your players, and he said, I'm going to defend you and I'm going to have your back. And it's going to make waves on the recruiting trail too about, he doesn't have to talk. He doesn't have to look, he doesn't have to point out any other examples. You can just say, look, I'll have my players back. And here's an example of it at a press conference. Look and see what I said about my players and defending them. And that's all he has to do. And so I agree with you. I think recruits are going to love this. Recruits are going to love seeing him vehemently come to their defense. And it's only going to help on that side. Now, I think the recruiting trail is going to be real spicy this summer with official visits coming
for
up.
Sure. There's a bunch of guys who are down to, maybe not just down to A&M and Alabama, but who have those as their top two or in their top group. Okay. Everybody, I would say, on or the early signing period now is going to be watching Tony Mitchell. He's a 5-star cornerback out of Alabaster, Alabama. Alabaster is a suburb of Birmingham. Tuscaloosa is almost a suburb of Birmingham. That's a hometown kid. And Florida's in there. Some other schools are in there. But who are the main two schools with him? A&M and Alabama. If Jimbo Fisher goes into the state of Alabama and lands a 5-star cornerback from 30 minutes down the road, 45 minutes down the road from Tuscaloosa, I mean, Saban is just going to go nuts. Now, he may not come out in public the same thing, but that is going to drive him nuts. So that recruitment just got really, really personal. Whereas on the other side, Malik Muhammad, a kid cornerback from Dallas, is a kid who is high on A&M and Alabama, and he's from Dallas. So you can, maybe Alabama goes even harder after him now, and those two are going to be really interesting.
They're going to be fascinating to watch. And you mentioned the Tony Mitchell one. I mean, that's, I can imagine he's going to be at that Alabama A&M game in October. And that just speaks to, the stakes, if they weren't high last year, they're going to be up even 10 notches higher this year. Cause how badly Alabama is going to want to avenge not only last year's loss, but just, seeing what A&M's done on the recruiting trail. People were already looking forward to this game. This just poured gasoline on the flames. Like, this just took it up about 25 notches. And so you're right. I mean, Nick Saban's going to probably go look through and see, okay, this guy's from Dallas, this guy's from Houston. These are the two we need to go all in for, and just try to send a message. And the recruiting battles are just going to be fascinating. And Malik Muhammad's a great example of somebody that he just took the visits to both spots last month. And I think it can be safely assumed he's going to take official visits back to both. Those end of the visit meetings are going to be fascinating as well, especially if one of the coaches know that they're heading to the next spot next. Oh, it's going to be very interesting.
Oh yeah, or like let's say Jimbo's outside waiting, like, oh, we both have been home to Tony Mitchell the same night, and he's just outside the door. It's like, oh yeah, it's already awkward. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be we need that photo. We need to find out where they're going to be together and find that like Jimbo Sark photo that you got last year that everybody kind of made a big deal about on social media. We need to get that photo of Jimbo and Saban together on the sideline and just see what ends up happening there.
Yeah, I'm guessing they probably won't be standing anywhere near each other and talking. Now, if I found out that this was just pure WWE, I mean, I'm talking about like Jimbo calls Saban afterwards and laughs, like, hey, did you see that? Like, that would be hilarious. I don't think it is, but
no, I
that
don't
would
think
be that would be hilarious if they just went just straight like, hey, it's the off season. We need to get some storylines going.
We need to spice things up a little bit, especially, I mean, this is 2 years in a row that they've dominated kind of the May headlines. I mean, it would be great if they plan this together, but I don't think that's the case.
No, I don't think it is. But that would be, that would be the ultimate. Is like, I mean, if it was just straight scripted, and then you got Saban, like, what did you really have to call me? Like, talk about how I think I walk on water and things like that.
Yeah. Well, it's to the point too of that was one of the more telling comments to me was has Saban reached out to you? Yes, yeah, no, he's called, but I didn't answer. We're done. And that was just okay. This relationship is officially severed. And
I mean, what do you think Saban was going to say? I have to admit, I mean, I've never dealt with him. It's hard to even like see him. He's just so gruff. It's even hard to see him as like a human with feelings. So like, what was he just going to call and say? Like he realizes that it's out there. Like I can't imagine him just groveling to Fisher and trying to apologize. Like, what was that conversation going to be?
I think to your point, he could have tried to. Because you mentioned, I think it was pretty calculated in what he said, and given the event he was at, I wonder if he would have tried to clarify what he was trying to say or where things were. But that phone conversation would have been fascinating to see. Just you're right. I don't think he was going to apologize or anything like that. But or maybe talk more about it. I don't know what that
probably just trying to explain away. Like, no, that's not really.
Yeah,
that's not really. I didn't say the exact quote. Texas A&M bought every player on their roster.
Like,
no, I think there's video. You said that exactly.
Yeah, I think I watched that video. That is definitely what you said, and that would have been a fascinating conversation. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be any phone conversations or golf.
What about the Aflac commercials? Because he did bring Deion Sanders into this,
and Deion Sanders
seems so friendly, and it doesn't seem forced in those Aflac commercials at all.
And Deion Sanders was not happy at all either. I mean, I don't know if he's had his press conference yet, but I have no doubt that we will hear from him multiple times today.
Yeah, we did. I mean, he hit back last night on social media and said, "I'll have more comments." But yeah, he's not so happy either.
Yeah, he's not so happy. So it's going to be fascinating. And the other person I'm fascinated to just, get in their mind of what they're thinking right now is Greg Sankey, probably thinking, oh man, these are two of the pillars of.
What did Jimbo was asked? I'm sure the conference will reprimand us. Like, what are they going to do? Hey, try not to call one guy say he's got a messiah complex, basically, and throw him completely not on the, just call out every bit of his character.
Yeah, for those who want to really feel cool, if these two are sitting at the next to each other at the SEC meetings, that's going to be real gold. But I imagine they'll be on the opposite sides of the table, and it's what are you going to do? Reprimand them about what they both said about each other? No, it's just going to live out there, and honestly, it's bringing more publicity to the SEC, bringing more publicity to the.
Oh yeah, Sankey's going to pretend. He's going to pretend he's upset about it, but he loves it. I mean, it's views. You think Feinbaum's not getting record viewership this
Yeah.
afternoon on his show?
Oh yeah, he's his whole hour is covered, and I thought it was great. There was some comments this morning about, and for anybody who is worried about filling their show today, just got the biggest break that they needed, because this just covered everything that they were going to possibly need to cover a show for today. For you could spend hours diving into this whole thing and
Oh, and people
getting a
will.
reaction from,
People
and
will.
people will.
No, so back at A&M fans that have been following recruiting for a while. Mac Brown used to seemingly sign players he didn't even need at positions just so A&M couldn't have them, and that's what I'm like laughing like at the now that there's no limit for the next 2 years. A&M really needs offensive tackles in this class. You think Saban's going to go out and somehow, allegedly, not through any means that aren't allowed, try and sign like every top
Yeah,
offensive tackle? Like,
he's gonna
hey, we
try to
got
find.
12 guys in this class. We took the top 12, make them all, make them all the top priority just so A&M can't have them.
And
Pull a little Mac Brown pettiness.
And on the A&M side, Jimbo is just going to go load up on every defensive lineman he can possibly.
Oh yeah,
get
A&M already signed that. It's like, yeah, get 70 again. Like this is just, we'll rotate every play.
Yeah,
I mean that
we're
would be
just
a
going to
good
rotate
defensive
through,
line.
and it's. But I don't think there's any two battles that they want to win more than the Malik Muhammad and Tony Mitchell battles. Now those are going to be, and we've another one to mention is Anthony Hill. I believe he's planning to take official visits to A&M and Alabama. That's going to be a really fascinating one
Yeah,
to
the
follow.
nation's top linebacker. Let's see who gets him.
Let's see who kind of comes out on top. So it's going to be fascinating to watch this going forward and see where this goes, because it is definitely not done. And as if there weren't going to be interesting already, SEC Media Days just got a lot more interesting.
Well, now I just have this feeling now Saban's going to release some kind of statement this afternoon. We're going to have the second ever emergency podcast on the same day.
We're gonna
day as this one.
Yeah,
just keep it. I did the math. I think this time next week, Thursday next week, is 100 days till A&M kicks off the season. So we got 107 days to fill, and if we can talk Jimbo and Nick Saban for 107 days,
perfect.
We could have a different conversation each time. There'd be plenty of material there. But if they want to give us more, that's great. I mean,
we'll
A&M fans are loving this. Alabama fans are loving this. Liking to see their coaches taking a stand. So, and other fans are just sitting back and just the popcorn gift, just eating popcorn.
Yeah, just eating popcorn and thinking this is a great way to. I know Josh Pate likes to say there's not the off season word, but it gets a lot more spicy with things like this. And we're going to be on a 2-week or two times a week cycle during the season with podcasts. This is basically in season right now with this and with this type of news and these press conferences. So it made all the sense in the world to do another podcast to dive into this. This couldn't wait until Monday. Jimbo Fisher
no. We had to talk about that.
We couldn't wait either. We had to get on and discuss this, and we'll have plenty more. And on Monday, of course, once we kind of see where this all goes, I'm sure Nick Saban is dialing up his response right now, and probably right after we release this podcast, there'll be a statement with him doubling down on everything that he said. So be sure to stay locked in to Gig'em 247, and we'll have you covered with all the latest. And if you like these podcasts, be sure to hit the subscribe button to get a notification every time a new podcast hits. Same on Spotify and iTunes as well. Give us a like and a 5-star review, and we'll be back with all the latest. And I think this time we can say have a great week to everybody, and we'll be back on next week with plenty more as well. Take care, everybody.